Well, welcome everybody. It's 6:01. If we would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now that everybody's sat down. I'm sorry, stay seated. You don't have to. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sorry about that. That's typical. It's a very quick meeting tonight, I'd say. We have the minutes of May 8th to approve. Do I have any comments or changes? Did anybody see Shannon's minutes? And I think they were basically perfect. I have nothing.
So I move that we approve them.
We have a motion to approve. Second. Pam, and all in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you. New business. We've got Howard's update. Want to read it or you want me to? Thank you for sending it.
I wasn't sure I was going to come.
I'm so impressed you got here in time.
I was impressed with the write-up.
I was too.
Both. I got out of Hudson.
Yeah.
My son had to go back and do quote unquote plumbing on a baseball field that has his name on it.
Yeah.
His field named after him.
Nice. That's nice.
Yeah, he's a lot more successful than I am.
No baseball fields named after you. Yeah.
No baseball fields named after me.
There'll be something named after you.
Well, I don't think any of us have a baseball
I
field named after us.
seriously doubt. But anyway, so I got back, stopped in very briefly at the Kilon Road thing.
Oh, yeah, it's well
And
done.
was not well attended, in my opinion.
So
And they were basically going over stuff that most of us has heard already, the
Yeah.
different versions of paving, and I don't know what they would do after. But there was no public comment, so what was the purpose of the meeting, really?
It was just an information.
Yeah, but you know, you get all those people in the room or whoever came, and then they don't get a chance to ask you any questions. That's kind of silly to me. But that's
They need to know the information though.
better. They could simply, oh, all right, whatever. That's what's going on there at the moment.
Yeah.
That they recapping all the things they told the town board previously at on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that. So I must come here because this is much more important. So I came here.
We are the important group. Do you want, you can read them if you'd like to.
No, not really.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll do your recap. The town board is working on updating their seeker report as a part of the hospitality law requirement. No mention was made of the CAC reports at the meeting. However, Mike Murphy did say that he was satisfied with the work that was being done by the town board so far with regard to the seeker review update. On the ZBA, nothing directly involving the CAC. Press their application on 97 Valley Farm Road for setback variance to add a porch, has a wetlands, but it's 150 feet away. However, they will put up a silt fence throughout construction just in case. The ZBA approved the variance and it was sent to the town planning board for site plan evaluation. The Corona application on Fowler Road sent to the planning board. Whatever approved will have to come back to the ZBA. Setback and other variances, it is an environmentally sensitive area. The Yadgard was previously approved, then challenged by a neighbor's attorney. Approved was upheld at last month's meeting. This month's meeting, it is back on the agenda and ZBA went into attorney-client privilege, not discussed at public meeting.
That's an interesting one, by the way. Why is it back? I have a theory. I'm not going to say at the moment.
Yeah, lots going on, I think,
Something is going on behind the scenes there.
between the neighbors, I'm sure.
No, I think it's something legal that's going on now. Alan Rapier is involved again.
Okay.
And they had attorney-client privilege
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little more serious.
All these bills, I'm sure.
Hmm.
On the town board, the special meeting, despite large groups of people in attendance against passing the seeker code portion of the hospitality law, as it is without, that was that typo.
That's the type.
Expert analysis.
That's
board.
the one. It should say without,
Yeah, that's what I thought. Without expert analysis, the board voted to accept it and pass the hospitality law. On the planning board, the Gazal's public hearing, the applicant was represented by Alan Rapplier, and after a very brief discussion, it was passed. The planning board attorney acknowledged that Mabbittsville language was difficult to interpret. Alan said he wants the planning board to recommend removing the language entirely. The planning board did not agree to do this at this time. Which is good. Anything else you'd like to say? As it's your report.
No. The only other thing is the comment about the public meeting where they discussed the seeker evaluation
Mhm.
is everybody in the room that spoke, and the room was packed, was against them moving forward with approval because they felt there was not enough people there to have expert on the board, have expert opinions on how to do this, and they should hire an independent consultant with no previous connections to this to take a look at it and do that. The only person who was against that I recall was Leslie Heaney's husband, who showed up. They asked people to raise their hands if they were for or against this proposal, and everybody in the room said they were against them proceeding right at this meeting, except that one person who I mentioned earlier thought everything was fine. So the gist of it was that they passed this law. It's done, I believe,
I believe it is.
and it's not well accepted by most of the public who's involved with it for reasons that we discussed before. And that's the only other observation, which I didn't put in a little note, but since we're sharing among ourselves pretty much, and maybe
On the recording,
the Zoom.
it's in our minutes.
So this is a business discussion for us because this affects the look and feel of the town and the environment. And, you know, it's perhaps an unchangeable decision, because once they build those buildings, they're not going to go away quickly. There'll be infrastructure there. And we, as the CAC, wrote a letter already, or maybe two, expressing concerns about that, and it has not been addressed. I will say that on the record. All right, that's a little extra, you know.
Alrighty, and Shannon had some comments as well. She wasn't able to join us, and she just wanted to say that the town board is putting a lot of responsibility on the environmental review of hospitality sites on the future planning board decisions. So she just wanted that to be in the record so that, you know, it's not, you know, yes, it's great that they passed it, but now they've passed the buck to the next group. And it would be great if the town board considered the road salt removal grant. But I don't know if it's much about the current capacity of equipment and to know how to recommend a guide for that. The grant requires 25% match, and the municipality needs to be the applicant. So that would be something that I'll discuss with Leslie and see.
That's great.
Yeah. All right. So that was that. Our CSC, we've met briefly with our advisor today to go on the PE9 section so that we can finish up on our bronze. We're like right there, qualification. We're getting really close. But part of what we discussed today, and Leslie asked me to bring forward to us, is the protection zone overlay with the village. If we can work with them with the water, the village's water, and it's a part of, technically, I think this will be a part of the land subdivision law, section 42, that is kind of askew because it says in number 4, it's like section 42, and I believe it's 14, that the environmental preservation districts adopted pursuant to section 316 of the zoning law together with the application of development guidelines report doesn't exist. So,
Right.
so
Very
this
confusing.
is, yeah, it was very confusing, and I guess it's the clear application that came up in.
Yeah.
And they had been questioning and asking us. So I think if we look into that and to find a way of getting this protection overlay zoning done.
Are we talking about the clear application following what's in the code?
I just briefly said their name because that's how that came up. But we're talking about now that we have the NRI completed, we need to adopt a protection zone overlay, which kind of works with our CSC because we can get points for it. But you know where the village water area is above in Mabbittsville, those protected lots. It also should be below. It's all showed on one of the, on the water map.
Yeah.
It's in yellow in that new map, but we need to get that portion added to the protection overlay.
So the idea would be to work with a law firm or our own legal ability to draft a provision that would link that map to this district.
Yes.
And it's actually going to be pretty easy to do
Right.
because the map is so clear. If the only thing we're
Correct.
talking about is village water supply.
Right. And that is the protection zone overlay that we're referring to. It's similar to this, but this needs to be addressed as well. So if
This being,
the land subdivision law, section 42.
so it's
It's
both.
non-existent, yeah,
Okay.
because you can't have this written in the zoning and not have the
Okay.
overlay or the district there.
Alright.
So it's a question that Leslie, asked us to look into. We would need to work on the protection water overlay with the village because
Right.
it's their water.
Are we talking about that map that they have? Or is that the-
It's our new NRI map.
Okay, because that map came about because they wanted to have some protection from people putting a dump in this area, a landfill dump. And the map was drawn, I'm not quite sure, maybe David remembers, was presented by Frank Genova in two pieces of paper.
Mhm.
And that was then put together by the Cornell Cooperative with my help and a couple of other people into the map that you see at the moment. And that's how that map was drawn. There is no logical reason geologically for
this
that
is-
map.
no,
exact-
this is the
exactly.
new map.
It's the new map. Is there a contact
Yes, but-
at the village? Is there a person?
Will it be Mike?
Be Mike?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll
All right.
reach out to Mike as well.
So the question then is, which map is the village using for their water? That's a state map. That map is approved by
The
New York
map they gotta
State.
use now is our NRI maps. The village, the town, the residents, we're all on the same maps now.
No, that's not my question. My question is that map was approved, there's only 3 of those districts in the entire state. And it's at the state level. The village water map is at the state level. There's a code for that. So what happens to that then? There's 3 of them that were approved at that time by the New York State, whoever, assembly, somebody. It's not a village approved map. It's a New York State approved map.
Okay, so that's another thing to
So-
look at. see
To
if
look
there
at
are-
as a part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what we're looking at is expanding that.
No, I'm not questioning you can
Yeah.
do all that. I'm just saying that map is not your map per se that the village is using. It's listed under a New York State code.
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has to be addressed somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't
and
think
We'll
you
find
can
out, because
abrogate it.
Mike knows.
And that's why it's important to coordinate, have a person
Yeah.
to understand what it is they're doing.
So we'll talk with Mike and we'll get that coordinated.
But in the meantime, I can take a look at the map, take a look at the existing zoning law and develop a legal strategy for,
On that overlay protection.
right, okay. Does
Which is
that,
perfect. Sounds perfect.
I can do that for the next
That would be
meeting.
great.
I don't
Okay.
see any reason why we, the town of Washington, the village of Millville, can't make their own map. That's, the one that you have that you think is better. I'm just simply saying that map exists outside your jurisdiction.
You could, but there's got to be a way to coordinate. There has to be a way to implement the new NRI maps in our.
I'm
zoning
sure there
code.
is, but I'm just making a technical point.
But this is a part of the protection zone overlay that they're trying, like you can drop this overlay on anything to protect it. So it just happens to be the village's water.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not objecting to any of that. I'm saying you can do all that. It's probably a good thing to do.
But the
What do you
state's,
do with the New York State law? There's three towns or villages under that section. That's all.
Mhm.
we'll
We'll-
find
we'll-
out,
we'll take a
we'll
look
find
at
out the logistics behind all that. No big deal.
Not a big deal, but it's a
Just
technical
thank you.
point that
Part of the equation.
somebody who lives in that zone and has the old map might want to use that map for their own benefit because they're
course.
concerned about something.
And it would still be in the new protection overlay verbiage. It would still be there. You can't wipe it out. It would still be
No,
there.
all right. No,
We're just
I'm not-
expanding it.
You're missing, maybe I'm not explaining
No,
myself.
No, we get it.
No, I now get it, that the concern would be that you don't want that old map to preempt whatever it is that we're doing. You need to have some legislative
Yeah.
clarity.
I'm not sure which preempts which. That's beyond my purview to
get the-
figure that out.
We'll get that in the equation, make sure that it's.
And that's
written out.
why, I think we'll do as much as we can ourselves, but having a land use attorney take a look at whatever we come up with is going to be part
That's a good idea.
of the process.
That's why I brought it up.
It's perfect. Thank you. All right, so we're,
Don't get mad at me.
no one's mad at you.
No, this is very good.
No.
It's helpful.
It's helpful. No, that's good. It's just it's just a part of the equation. We just don't know what we're adding and subtracting yet. This is the
But it's a
baby
good warning.
steps.
It's
Yeah.
a good warning. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's the baby steps.
It's something to watch out for. It's a yellow light.
So we're now, strangely enough, to the open comments and questions. Anyone have any open questions, comments, or we have public here with us. Any public comments? Because I missed the public comments last time I got in trouble.
Well, I haven't been to one of these in quite some time. Howard knows. I just was very dismayed by last night's meeting and have been fielding calls all day long, emails, texts, comments on things. I think there were, several things that bothered me. And one of them is that we know of existing issues, at least on Daytop, that are really severe with the inability for the septic system to properly work there. I think Howard was probably in the meeting when those guys, or I might have been alone in the meeting, when they came back from wading through planning board, going on a site visit and wading through the materials to properly get diluted or whatever happens with waste material.
Mhm.
I think that there was a real feeling of lack of protection for the neighboring properties to their water. I've never heard of anything like a pipe leaving a property and traveling under people's driveways into a wetland to pull water in this day and age that apparently exists at Daytop. And then the area across from Bennett in particular, that the village board, which never seems to unanimously vote on much, asked that they remove that property unanimously. Because my understanding from what was read last night, because of the issues to village water, et cetera, that exists there. And, you know, I was particularly distressed by the fact that as we are experiencing climate change, for whatever reason people think it's happening, it's really happening. And the water this year alone, what the flooding down there, I mean, all you have to do is look on Facebook to see all of those property owners lamenting about what is happening, what am I going to do, and the cost of this, and et cetera. So the idea of building there is really problematic. And what you said at the beginning of this meeting, that all this responsibility is being placed on the planning board, that's true. And as I know I personally said to them, that's an unfair burden. That's basically, you know, they're there basically to help somebody do something with the property. They're not there, it's not their job to be doing all of this, and it really should be in the legislation. It should be in the legislation to protect the land, to protect the property owners that already exist, to protect infrastructure, protect all this stuff. Change is gonna happen, I get it. But it shouldn't be to the detriment of the people there, and I thought it particularly upsetting when one of the board members said there were no experts in the room without asking if there were. And there were. But there's this assumption that none of us here know anything or know about the property or have any expertise in anything. I don't really understand it. I particularly thought it galling when Howard was sitting there, who may not be a land use expert, but has literally been sitting in these meetings for decades, has a knowledge, accumulated knowledge of this land. I really don't know, apart from having it be your profession, being paid for it, how that could be more valuable to us as a community. So I guess it's a little bit of a rant, but I just was just so disappointed that not only the neighbors, but there just seemed to be a lack of respect for the people that are actually doing the work. And anyway, I wish that you as a committee, I don't know how, I obviously know how it's work, but should have more of a place at the table. Should be there really advocating for the land. I think of you as like Trout Unlimited, advocating for the fish, advocating for the land, for the water, the air, for what it is here. And this advisory thing, I mean, if the mayor comes in and says, you know, we had a unanimous vote and basically is told, well, that's nice. We looked at it, you know, no problem. We've got it. You got our opinion. Who's protecting this? I think people think of you guys as the, oh, well, the CAC has weighed in, the CAC has looked at it, the CAC. I don't know how is a community member, no paper, everything's just basically on mostly Millbrook or Millbrook moms or, you know, listed on a website. What is it that we can do as community members to support you in this work? Because right now, this law puts us open to a lot of development. And as one of the callers in yesterday said, Midvale has been bought. You know, it was sold at auction on Friday. And frankly, Hitchcock is being priced right now. And Hitchcock is a huge game-changing piece of property for both the village and the town. It also has water. It's an important water source for fire protection and other things for the village as a backup. I think if there's any time, caveat, I'm for hospitality, so that's not the issue.
Yeah.
I just want to do it in a way that safeguards this land for our kids. So I'm just asking you really, and you don't have to tell me now, but you know, to let me know how it is that I can do this to help support you, how it is that I can get the word out, whatever it is, because I don't know last night, the diversity of people in here and the diversity of concern, that it was just, we're listening, and then that was it. You know, oh, we've heard you. Okay, let's vote. Got it, done, walk out. I just don't get it so that's all. Thank you for letting me say this.
Well,
I'm
thank
just
you.
very sad.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for joining us and commenting. Your comments are noted. As public, we all can do things. Obviously, the easiest and best thing you can do for change is people can run for board. If you want major change, that's the only way. You can imagine how willing the town board would be to put me on. But I think it's amazing how everyone wants to change things, but nobody wants to be that person who jumps in the seat.
Well,
So
I have
I offer
jumped in.
anybody to jump in the seat.
I have jumped in the seat many a time, and I have been told that I'm not welcome, but I'm happy to do it in any other way. And the concern is real and really out there, so I think it's to our detriment if we're not protecting water.
That's correct. But, all right, well, thank you again for your comments. Does anyone else have anything to say, comment, or? Adelaide, you're online. I see you. Do you want to say anything before we?
Hi,
start?
guys. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, no, I would just echo, I was at that meeting on Monday night too. I would echo all of what Lisa said, Elizabeth said. It was a very sad night and it was a very big room and I really felt badly for those neighbors. Because as I said, Migdale came with two law firms. These neighbors had no protection at all. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So it's sad when you feel like neighbors have to get a lawyer to get protected because the town government isn't putting those protections in. And one thing I didn't say that night that I would have added was kicking the can down the road to the planning board. For me, who's had personal experience with the planning board over decades, is really no reassurance at all. They're volunteers. They're not land use planner professionals, and they don't have the support they need, and they don't have the budget and the expertise. And so that's just as all these big properties coming up, it's a very frightening thing. So I would just it's really just ditto on all of what Lisa just said. So, and the other thing I wanted to talk about, I mean, that's a big thing. That's quite enough. And I think everyone's really saddened by it. There are a lot of neighbors really upset. So, they felt ignored, and the process. There was two things that are the most annoying were the constant referral to the credentials of the people they hired was really gotten to the point where it's a little offensive because it's sort of like, oh, we're smarter than you. What do you know? I mean, it was just such a bad public service look and so irrelevant because success is in the actions, and the evidence wasn't there that the data was collected well and intelligently enough for these particular sites. So all this, but and I said this in my letter. The other thing I wanted to mention is that I'm because the climate smart stuff. I'm amazed that you think you're at bronze level already, so that's incredible. But since the meeting, I know you and Leslie have done all this work behind the scenes, and the committee the actual climate smart committee hasn't really met in a long, long time. I'm just wondering, how did you guys get to the bronze already?
It's all the actions that we've done and set aside to do. We're not at the level we're there to be bronze as soon as we complete.
Okay, because I was like, wow, that's amazing. Okay.
And we only have to have 2 meetings a year as
Yeah.
the CEO.
Okay,
So,
right. That's right. I do remember that.
Really too busy to have a meeting yet, but Julie,
I know. That's fine. I just didn't know how I thought you were very close to.
It's all by our actions and when we complete them, but we're
Okay.
at that level. We can complete it. We just need to get the stuff done.
Yeah. Okay. That's
We are on the correct path to bronze, which is quite remarkable for us.
I agree.
So
that is remarkable. That's why I was asking. Thank
anything
you.
else?
Nope.
No? Anybody? Can I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.